now we all know that Donald Trump's meritocracy brain geniuses planned an attack on Yemen in a Signal group chat and accidentally invited a journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg. And this story might have ended on day one if the administration had just owned it and made some bullshit statement like, sorry, we're taking accountability, hashtag listening and learning, and blah, 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 blah. But they just can't help themselves because whenever they're in trouble, their default response is to punch their way out of it, which only makes things worse. So now we're still talking about this 3 days later instead of what I wanted to cover tonight, which was 23andMe going bankrupt and what they're gonna do with all your DNA. One word, face off. Okay, that's 2 words with a slash, and we can't decide if that. Look, it doesn't matter, all right? The point is they're going to put your face on someone else, and the White House wants to move on. They've got to come clean and stop stepping on their own dicks, okay? So let's start with something easy. For National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, how did the reporter get invited into the group chat?
I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number
have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
No. No one's ever had that, all right? People don't have a contact with a phone number for like a different person unless they're having an affair. So I guess I'm saying I think this guy is having an affair with Jeffrey Goldberg. And look, even if that was an actual, somewhat relatable mistake, maybe try not making that mistake when you're planning a war. And why are you shitting on Jeffrey Goldberg? He's a loser. This guy sucks. He's dishonest. He didn't do anything. All he did was wake up in the morning and you added him to your group chat. You abducted him and forced him to see your secrets. But okay, the bigger issue is what was shared in the group chat. Jeffrey Goldberg says there were war plans that were so sensitive, he didn't even put them in his article. But Pete Hegseth spent the last 2 days saying he's lying.
Nobody was texting war plans.
Nobody's texting war plans.
Nobody's texting war plans.
Okay, great. Couldn't be more clear. Nobody was texting war plans. You hear me? Nobody was texting war plans. Nobody was texting.
And we begin with the breaking news. The Atlantic Magazine's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, is releasing the messages from the Yemen strike plans group chat. And the screenshots show discussions of weapons and specific timing of U.S. military strikes.
11:44 a.m. Eastern that time. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM we are a go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern, F-18s launch, declaring this first strike package. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. 14:15, strike drones on target. This is all caps. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop.
Okay, look, just because you write in all caps, this is when the first bombs will definitely drop, doesn't mean they're war plans. Okay? This is Pete Hegseth. Maybe he was talking about Jaeger bombs. But if you ask me, that looks a lot like a plan for the war. It had military time and everything, okay? It had more details than you get from DoorDash. And those guys tell you everything, all right? 8:56, we have received your order. 8:59, we are preparing your food. 9:06, we accidentally dropped your food. 9:07, actually, don't worry about it, we're on our way. So I think it's a war plan, but what the hell do I know? I've never seen one before because no one's ever been dumb enough to put one in a group chat with a journalist. But maybe maybe this is a good thing, okay? The receipts are out, so we can call a spade and admit that these are indeed very specific war plans.
I don't think it's specific enough to be considered war plans.
It doesn't tell you, hey, we're going to hit this particular village, this particular city, this particular target, this particular individual.
They were talking about when, not specific longitude and latitude and all that other stuff.
Oh, man, Janine must be a nightmare to make plans with. Hey, you said meet at Chili's at 7, but where's the f***ing longitude? Like, stop pretending you need some arbitrary detail to make it a war plan, okay? It's like saying this wasn't an orgy. We didn't have the pink feathers and the eyes wide shut mask. Were there more than 3 dicks? Then it was an orgy, okay? Everything else is semantics. You know what? You tell me. If having a detailed schedule plan of attack is not a war plan, then what is it?
Do you think these are war plans?
Oh, this, it's an outline of what is about to happen.
There were no war plans in any of this stuff. There's a conversation.
This was a private conversation.
I would characterize this messaging thread as a policy discussion, a sensitive policy discussion, surely.
What is a war plan?
Whoa, what is war, man? It's just raw spelled backwards. I think it was Shakespeare that said, what is in a plan? That which we call a war by any other name would accidentally get texted to Jeffrey Goldberg. For more on this stupid argument, we go live to the Pentagon with senior war correspondent Michael Kosta. Michael, hey, am I crazy or are these very clearly war plans?
You're crazy, Ronny. You know, maybe a civilian reporter like yourself spills his cortado all over his little Ugg boots reading these texts, but the grizzled veterans at the Trump administration know that these are not war plans. I mean, would it be a war plan if I said, Carrier, Strike Group 2 will engage 14 targets in northeast Syria at 0900 tomorrow. CENTCOM says go. I repeat, CENTCOM says go. Over.
Yeah, that sounds like a war plan.
Yeah, because you're a civilian, you know, peeing through his Fjällräven jacket all over his Lululemon yoga mat. But it's not a war plan, because I didn't say something specific, like what type of plane they're using. You have no idea that it's an F-18.
Yeah, you just said that it's an F-18.
Yeah, well, F-18 could mean anything. It could be a bingo number or a parking spot. F-18 could be Pete Hegseth's search on a dating app. You don't know.
Okay, but F-18 is clearly a plane.
Oh, you're an expert now. The only military figure you know anything about is General So. By the way, that's a burn about you being a civilian, not an Asian.
Okay, then, why don't you enlighten me with your military genius? If that's not war planning, then what is it?
It's war manifesting. You know, Hegseth was asking the universe to drop a Tomahawk missile, and it happened. Haven't you ever read The Secret? You know, the book, not the state secrets he texts Jeffrey Goldberg.
You really want me to believe this was war manifesting?
Of course it was manifesting. No different than making a vision board. You know, kind of like this one. You know, look.
Holy shit, is that a war plan for Canada?
There you go again with that phrase, war plan. It's not a war plan. It's an operational scribbling.
Of a war plan. Look, it has like arrows and airplanes and like weapons and those little crosshairs and there's times there. It's clearly a plan to invade Canada.
Okay, look, but we don't know which Canada, you know? And none of these arrows are even labeled, so we don't know where we will be attacking, which is why the people of Winnipeg and Banff, here and here, will never see this coming on Saturday at noon. It's gonna be sweet.
Okay, where did you even get that war map?
The DOD accidentally mailed it to my house. Mike Waltz has my address and his contacts. It's not a big deal. He's having an affair with my wife.
Okay, well, great job, I guess. Michael Kosta, everyone.